Osaka, 1598. The annual tournament that made names permanent and broke men in public. Riyota, age 22, the pride of his dojo, undefeated in 17 consecutive duels, stepped into the arena with 3,000 eyes on him. He had everything a young warrior dreams of: skill, reputation, a master who trusted him, a father who spoke his name with pride. Across from him stood a stranger, no banner, no students behind him, no famous lineage. A ronin from the mountains with a plain wooden sword and a face that looked almost bored. The signal sounded. 8 seconds later, Riyota had been struck across the face once, twice, 3 times before his hands even remembered they were holding a weapon. He did not lose because the ronin was faster. He lost because something inside him collapsed. His mind went blank. His body refused to move, not fear like screaming panic. Something colder, a sudden disappearance of himself. The arena went silent. Then laughter. Then whispers that cut deeper than any blade. And then the shame that followed him for 3 years. A line attributed to Miyamoto Musashi is often repeated in warrior circles, and even if people argue about the exact wording, the truth behind it remains brutal. You can only fight the way you practice, but here is what nobody tells you. You can also only live the way you practice. And when you stop practicing, when you let discipline rot, when you let the soul become lazy, you do not just fail at your craft. You fail at being yourself. This is not a story about a duel. It is a story about identity collapse. About a man who lost everything, not to injury, not to a superior opponent, but to something far more devastating. He lost his inner backbone, and the path back from that darkness is the real warrior path nobody talks about. The question is not whether you will fall. The question is whether you will find your way back when you do. Chapter 1. The day everything broke. 3 days after the duel, Riyota sat alone in his family estate, staring at the sword he could no longer bear to touch. 22 years of living, 17 victories, 5 years of training at dawn, forms until sunset, breath control in the night, eating clean, refusing distraction, never drinking, never straying from the path. And it was all destroyed in 8 seconds. The bruises on his face would heal fast. The wound to his spirit was different. It sat deeper. It did not bleed. It poisoned. He replayed the moment endlessly. The ronin approaching, the crowd leaning forward, the signal, the first step, and then nothing, not even a thought. A void where training should have been. A silence that did not feel peaceful. It felt like absence. And in that absence, he discovered something terrifying. He did not know who he was anymore. His entire life had been built on one identity, the disciplined one, the chosen one, the warrior who will bring honor. His self-worth was his skill. His purpose was his practice. His name was his reputation. And in 8 seconds, he learned a truth most men learn too late. An identity built on performance is fragile. It looks strong. It feels strong. It impresses people. But it collapses when pressure exposes what it was hiding. Week 1 was unraveling. He forced himself back to the dojo. He stood with his bokken. His hands shook. His master, Taida-sensei, watched him silently, then spoke without anger. "Your grip is too tight." Riyota nodded, but he could not change it. The tighter he gripped, the more he trembled. The more he trembled, the tighter he gripped. Every movement felt dead, mechanical, like a man acting out a memory instead of living a moment. "Perhaps you need rest," the master said. "I do not need rest," Riyota snapped. He did not even know what he needed. How do you fix something when you do not know what broke? Students trained around him. Some looked away out of discomfort. Some stared out of curiosity. A few whispered. Younger ones avoided his eyes like shame was contagious. After 1 hour, Taida-sensei came close and said the sentence that finished him. "Go home. Come back when you are ready." "I am ready," Riyota said. "No," the master replied. "You are here, but you are not present." That sentence hit harder than the ronin strikes. That night, Riyota skipped his evening practice. for the first time in years. At first it felt like relief, like removing armor that had become too heavy. Then the next night, he skipped again, then again, and the habit of discipline cracked. Month 2 was descent. He stopped going to the dojo completely. At first he told himself it was temporary, just a few days, just to clear his mind. Days became weeks. He began drinking, not to celebrate, to silence the voice in his head. Fraud, coward, failure. His father confronted him. "You shame our family." "I already did that," Riyota answered. "What is a little more?" "You dishonor your training." "My training betrayed me." The words came out sharper than he expected, but they were honest. "I trained my whole life, and when it mattered, I froze. So tell me what that discipline was worth." His father slapped him. "Then rebuild," his father said. "I cannot." "You mean you will not?" "I mean, I do not know who I am anymore. The warrior I thought I was, he died in that arena. So who am I supposed to rebuild?" His father had no answer. Month 4 became darkness. Riyota slept through mornings, drank through evenings, spent money like he wanted to punish his own bloodline. The disciplined man who woke before dawn could not rise before noon. The one who ate simple meals now chased excess. The man who used to respect himself now acted like a stranger living in his body. And the worst part was not guilt. The worst part was numbness. No shame, no motivation, no fire, just emptiness. One night, stumbling through Osaka, he ran into men from his old dojo. Kenji, a former training partner, stared at him like he was seeing a ghost. "Riyota, is that you?" Riyota was unwashed, unshaven, eyes dull. "What happened to you?" Kenji asked. "I found out who I really am," Riyota slurred. "Not the warrior everyone imagined, just nothing." Kenji's face shifted from shock to pity. That pity hurt worse than insults. "Come back to the dojo," Kenji said. "Master Taida still cares." "He cannot fix me," Riyota replied. "Nobody can." There is nothing left to fix. He stumbled into the darkness, leaving Kenji standing there with helpless silence. Month 6 was rock bottom. He collapsed in an alley and did not eat for days. An old man found him. Not a preacher, not a performer, just an old man with sharp eyes and a calm voice. "You are dying," the old man said. "Good," Riyota muttered. "Not of hunger, of absence. You removed yourself from life while still breathing." Riyota laughed weakly. "You do not understand." "I understand perfectly," the old man replied. "You lost one duel, and because you could not face that loss, you decided to lose everything else as well." The words pierced his numbness like a needle. "Who are you?" Riyota asked. "Someone who walked the same path you are walking, except I reached the end." "And what is at the end?" Riyota whispered. "Death or rebirth? Your choice." The old man stood. "If you want the other path, come to the hill shrine outside the city at first light when the streets are quiet." "Why would I come?" Riyota asked. "Because despite everything, some part of you still wants to live. Not just breathe. Live. That part will bring you." The old man left. Riyota lay there staring at the sky. No tears, no speech, no drama. Then something stirred. Not hope, curiosity. What if there is a way back? Chapter 2. The real enemy is conditional identity. 3 days later, Riyota arrived at the hill shrine at first light. He came unwashed, hungover, half convinced this was pointless. The old man was there, sweeping leaves as if this was the only thing that mattered. He gestured to the ground. "Sit." Riyota Saturday. Silence stretched. His mind screamed, "This is stupid. You are wasting time. You are weak. You should be somewhere else." After a long while, Riyota could not hold it. "Why am I here?" "Because you lost yourself," the old man replied, "and you think that is the problem." "It is the problem." "No," the old man said calmly. "The problem is you think there was ever a self made of trophies." Riyota frowned. "Explain." Tell me who you were before the duel. A warrior, disciplined, honorable, skilled. And were those things you, or were they what you did? What is the difference? Everything. The old man picked up a leaf and crushed it in his palm. You built your identity on outcomes, victories, applause, your father's pride, your master's praise, the gaze of 3,000 people. So you became a prisoner to outcomes. The moment the outcome changed, your identity collapsed. Because you did not lose a fight, you lost the image you worshipped. Ryota's chest tightened. I did not worship anything. You did not bow in a temple, the old man replied. But your heart bowed to reputation. You lived for an image. You trained to be seen, not to be real. And when pressure came, performance collapsed, because performance cannot survive reality. Riyota stared at the ground. So what am I supposed to do? You do not rebuild who you were, the old man said. You build a new foundation, a foundation that cannot be stolen by one moment. And what is that foundation? Riyota asked. Practice, daily practice, not for applause, not for image, for presence, for inner command, for truth. Ryota's eyes narrowed. Sounds like words. Then let us make it action, the old man replied. Starting tomorrow, you return to zero. Chapter 3. Starting from zero. The next morning, the old man brought Riyota a wooden practice sword. Hold it. Ryota's hand trembled the moment he touched it. Memories flooded in, the arena, the laughters, the freeze. He dropped the sword. Good, the old man said. Riyota looked up, confused. For months you felt nothing. Now you feel fear. That is not weakness. That is life returning. I cannot do this, Riyota said. Correct, the old man replied. The old Riyota cannot. He died in the arena. But the Riyota being born now does not carry the same chains. He is not here to impress anyone. He is here to rebuild himself from the inside. That sounds like a lie, Riyota snapped. No, the old man said. It sounds impossible, and that is why it works. If you try to go back to who you were, you will always be haunted by the fall. But if you build forward, you will become something your old self never had. Stability. Then he pointed to the ground. First form. Overhead strike, but not from memory, from breath, from weight, from now. Riyota raised the sword. His body tried to execute the perfect form he had done 10,000 times. Stop, the old man said. You are performing. You are trying to prove you still have it. There is nothing to prove. Move like a man who is alive, not like a man begging for his old image. Riyota swallowed and tried again. This time his strike was worse in technique, but it was real. It was present. It was not a performance. They repeated it again and again, 50 times. Ryota's shoulders burned, not from strength work, from inner resistance. By the end he was exhausted mentally, emotionally, spiritually. How was that? The old man asked. Terrible, Riyota said. My form was awful. Good, the old man replied, because for the first time in years your technique was alive. Your ego hates this because it cannot hide behind perfection. But this is where real rebuilding starts. Week 2 was war. Not war with a sword, war with the ego. Everyday basic forms, no flashy progress, no advancement, just presence. Ryota's ego screamed. I am better than this. I do not need beginner work. The old man watched him like a mirror. That voice, he said, is the corpse trying to stand up again. Let it scream. Do not argue with it. Do not obey it. Return to breath. Return to the movement. Return to now. Slowly, through repetition, something emerged beneath pride and shame. A man, not an image, not a reputation. A man who could stand inside a moment without collapsing. Week 4 came with a shift. One morning, Riyota lifted the sword, and there was no tremor. Not because he became confident, because he stopped trying to protect an image. He was simply there. The old man nodded once and said nothing. That evening, he spoke. You are ready for the next stage. What is the next stage? Riyota asked. Learning who you are when you are not trying to be anyone. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Collapse and the Law of Return. Let me tell you what happened to you, the old man said. Not in poetry, in law. You built your self-worth on conditions, winning, praise, respect. When your self-worth is conditional, you become fragile. Not because you are weak, but because you are tied to things you cannot control. You live like a man standing on a narrow platform. As long as the platform stays stable, you look powerful. When the platform shakes, you collapse. Real strength is when your foundation is inside you, so losing does not erase you. Failure does not destroy your soul. A bad season does not make you abandon yourself. Riyota listened carefully. So what is the foundation? Daily practice, the old man replied. Daily truth, daily discipline, not as a performance, but as obedience to what you know is right. And here is the harsh truth most men avoid. You did not freeze because you lacked technique. You froze because you had never practiced losing. You had never practiced being calm when the image cracks. You only practiced winning. So when losing arrived, your inner system crashed. The old man leaned forward. This is why some men break when they lose money, or when a relationship ends, or when they are embarrassed in public, or when they fail once. They built identity on a story, not on practice. And when the story breaks, they do not just lose the event, they lose themselves. Ryota's eyes lowered. That is exactly what happened. Yes, the old man said, and this is the path back. You practice being present daily. You practice showing up daily. You practice humility daily. You practice discipline when you feel nothing. That is the real test, not how you act when you are inspired, how you act when you are empty, because that is where most men collapse. Chapter 5. The Duel He Could Not Lose. Month 4, a traveler came to the hill shrine, a fighter, skilled, proud, looking for challenge. He heard a fallen champion was training here. He demanded a duel. Ryota's stomach tightened. Old fear rose like a flood. The old man looked at him. I am not asking you if you can win. I am asking you if you can be present. Outcome irrelevant. Can you stand inside the moment without leaving it? Riyota swallowed. If I lose again, it will destroy me. No, the old man replied. That is the old lie talking. You are not the man who lives by applause anymore. You are the man who lives by practice. If you lose, you return tomorrow and practice again. If you win, you return tomorrow and practice again. That is the foundation. Riyota nodded slowly. I will do it. They met in a small courtyard. No crowd, no laughter, no banners, just two men, wood swords, and silence. The traveler attacked fast and sharp. Riyota felt the pressure rise. Then he returned to breath, feet on earth, hands steady, eyes clear. He moved. Not from fear, not from trying to impress, from presence. The duel lasted 3 minutes. No clear victor. Both landed strikes, both showed skill. When they separated, Riyota realized something. He had been there the whole time. No freeze, no inner collapse, no performance. Just a man standing inside reality. The traveler bowed deeply. You are the most grounded opponent I faced, he said. After the traveler left, Riyota looked at the old man. How do you feel? The old man asked. Not proud, not ashamed, just calm. Good, the old man replied. That calm is what you came here for, because calm means you are no longer a slave to outcomes. Chapter 6. The long road that rebuilds a man. Now came the real work, not one duel, a year of daily obedience. The old man gave him a routine that did not negotiate with feelings. Wake before dawn, wash and pray, sit quietly, watching breath, not chasing thoughts. Train forms slowly with full attention. Work with the hands, cleaning, carrying, repairing. Eat simply, train again, reflect at night, sleep early, repeat, every day. Riyota asked the question every weak man asks. What if I do not feel motivated? The old man replied with a sentence that cut like steel. Then you learn to obey without motivation. That is what separates the man who returns from the man who stays broken. Month 6 brought the deeper wound. The old man said, "You trained discipline, but you have not faced your shame." Riyota tried to resist. "I faced it already. I lived in it for months." "No," the old man replied. "You drowned in it. That is not facing. Facing is looking directly without running, without hiding, without turning it into an excuse." So the old man made him tell the whole tournament story again, but this time without drama, without excuses, without self-hate. Just facts, just sensations, just reality. Riyota spoke until his throat tightened. Then tears came, not to be seen. Not for pity, tears of release. The old man nodded. "Good. The wound is not weakness. The refusal to acknowledge it creates weakness. Now it can heal." Chapter 7. Facing the Place of Death. Year 3, the old man said. "You are ready to return to Osaka." Ryota's heart tightened. Why would I return there? To complete the circle, not to prove anything to people. To prove to yourself that the place you died is not a prison anymore. They went to the tournament. Same arena, different year, same smell of dust and wood, same energy of men hungry for applause. Riyota stood in the crowd and felt the old memory trying to take him. Then he breathed. He stayed present. A voice behind him said, "Riyota." He turned. Taida Sensei, his old master, looked older, eyes heavy. "You disappeared," the master said. "We thought many things." "I lost myself," Riyota replied. "I spent years rebuilding." The master studied him. "You are different." "I am present," Riyota said. "I was not before." Taida Sensei paused. "Will you compete?" Riyota felt the old fear rise. Then he remembered the law. Outcome is irrelevant. Presence is everything. "Yes," he said. The organizers were shocked, but they allowed it. And fate placed the same ronin in his path, the man who beat him in 8 seconds. The crowd murmured. The rematch. They stepped into the arena. Riyota bowed. The ronin bowed. The signal sounded. The ronin attacked. Riyota did not chase victory. He did not chase revenge. He stayed present. He moved with clarity. He responded without panic. The duel was not perfect. It was alive. It lasted long. At the end, neither man stood as a public loser. It ended as a mutual clash of skill and calm. The crowd erupted. Riyota barely heard it, because the victory was not applause. The victory was that he did not leave himself. Afterward, the ronin approached him quietly. 3 years ago, you froze. Today you did not. What changed? Riyota answered with a calm voice. I stopped trying to be the man who never loses and became the man who shows up. Win or lose, I stay here. The ronin nodded once. That is real strength. Chapter 8. The warrior truth you need today. Here is what you must understand. Most men fear losing a duel, losing money, losing status, but the real loss is losing yourself. And losing yourself does not happen in dramatic moments only. It happens in small choices. When you skip what keeps you disciplined, when you replace prayer with distractions, when you let your body decay, when you let your word become cheap, when you lie to yourself daily, those small choices weaken the foundation. Then a crisis comes, a pressure moment, a public failure, a heartbreak, a financial hit, a temptation, a humiliation, and the weak foundation collapses. That is why you see men who look strong suddenly disappear. That is why you see gifted people fall into addiction. That is why you see talented people become lazy shells, not because they lack information, because they stopped practicing the identity they claim. And here is the way back. Not dramatic speeches, not temporary motivation, small, consistent present actions, daily, weekly, monthly. You rebuild your soul by rebuilding your practice. If you practice distraction, you will become a distracted man. If you practice excuses, you will become an excuse. If you practice prayer, discipline, truth, and attention, you will become stable. You will become unbreakable, not because you never fall, but because your foundation survives falling. Riyota did not return to who he was. That person died. He built forward. He became more real, less polished, more present, less obsessed with image, more steady, less addicted to applause. And that is why he became stronger than the champion he once was. Because the champion was built on conditions, the rebuilt man was built on practice. So let me ask you the question this story is really asking. What are you practicing daily? Not what do you claim, what do you actually practice? Because the day pressure comes, you will not rise to your dreams. You will fall to your practice. If you want to rebuild, start with one simple oath. I will show up today. Even if I feel nothing, I will do the work while my heart is heavy. I will pray while my mind is noisy. I will train while my ego complains. I will return tomorrow, then return again. That is how men come back from darkness. And if you are in that darkness now, understand this clearly. Your fall is not proof you are finished. Your fall is proof you built on something unstable. Now you have the chance to build on something real, daily practice, daily presence, daily truth. And one day you will look back and realize the version of you that collapsed was not your real strength. It was your mask. Real strength is the man who keeps returning, even after humiliation, even after loss, even after failure. He returns, he rebuilds, he becomes. Master yourself and you will master life itself.